I'm not sure if we'll get a chance to review this thing as a group. And I know you guys are not as connected to the Beavis and Butthead lore as yours truly over here. Because I go way back. Beavis and Butthead was one of the first cartoons I ever became like truly obsessed with. There's a lot of stuff you watch as a kid, but like there's few shows. There's a finite number of shows that you really gravitate towards and you become a real fan of. Like for me, it's a personality trait for me, for Christ's sake, is Arthur. Yep. Beavis and Butthead is on my Mount Rushmore of animated shows. It easily is. So I've been a fan of it for years. And I also have to just really look at the fact too that like, he's a household name. He's obviously very popular, but he doesn't do a lot. Mike Judge does not do a lot. He's always kind of been, even in the 90s, he's been kind of famously sporadic. I mean, in the 90s, he had King of the Hill, and he also had Beavis and Butthead, obviously. But he's always been pretty sporadic with like his work. Like case in point too, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. The trailer just dropped last week. That's his first directorial effort since Extract in 2009. He's done a lot of producing work, but he hasn't really written anything movie-wise in quite a long time. He obviously did Silicon Valley. He did that, and he did that other animated show that lasted like a season, The Good Family. He did The Good Family too in between. But he doesn't overload himself. He's not kind of like McFarlane. I think at this point too, he's like been the kind of guy that's made his money and is very content, but he still has a real soft spot for Beavis and Butthead, clearly, because coming to Paramount Plus on June 23rd, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe tagline gets right to the point here. The dumbest science fiction movie ever made, which I already like that a lot too. Couple just reactions of the trailer, because I sent it to you guys like immediately too. Couple reactions from the trailer that I have as well is that I'm glad that it doesn't look like this thing is going to take place entirely in space. I'm really kind of happy about that.
Yeah.
That it's not going to take place exclusively in outer space. Like, I think there's going to be a time where they literally or figuratively crash back down to Earth, and it's going to be them acting like it's space, which I think is a great thing in and of itself. I think that's a great concept through and through. I think the animation looks good. And I also love too how like there was the Revival series. I don't know if you remember it, when Beavis and Butthead came back for a sixth season? I can't remember because they were released in volumes on DVD, but they came back for like a seventh season, whatever that one season was on MTV in 2011. They came back and it was a really good season. It really was. I watched every episode. It was a really well done season because it was modern, but it wasn't glaringly modern. Like, it was well incorporated. Like, they froze in time, but little things kind of encroached. And mainly the most modern aspect of the newest season were the inclusion of music videos. The music videos they chose, because it wasn't just videos, it was Jersey Shore clips, I remember, which shows you how long ago this was. And they would also do a couple viral music videos, like really fan-made, like really low-budget videos as well, reacting to those. But they were still watching them on TV, kind of rather inexplicably. But they were watching them on TV, so the framework was definitely there. I'm really excited about this. I don't need this to be high art. I don't even think Beavis and Butthead Do America is a 4-star animated movie. I think it's really good for what it is in the adaptation of the show. But I also think that the last thing I'll say about this is that it comes back to the way Beavis and Butthead ended. If you know that story, if the way it ended,
Beavis and Butthead is one of those things that really just passed me by, not because I didn't like it, not because for any reason other than that there's just so much going on in the 90s. That
yes, there was.
Yeah, I just latched onto other things. Luck of the draw.
Beavis and Butthead ended in sort of an unceremonious fashion because while the movie was getting made in '96 and came out, Mike Judge got picked up by Fox to do King of the Hill, and MTV was fine with him doing both. With him working on both. Mike Judge didn't want to work on both.
Yeah.
He really wanted to do King of the Hill because he'd been trying to get that made for years. But he like Beavis and Butthead Do America. It's not technically because the show ran till 97 in its original run. I think there was one more season or a half season. But Judge wanted to get Beavis and Butthead off his plate at the time to go do King of the Hill. But when he started rumbling in the mid 2000s after King of the Hill ended about going back to Beavis and Butthead, it was really because the fact he's like, I love those characters and I don't feel like I gave them a real sort of finale that they deserved, especially for the cultural impact they have. There's the famous and I'll butcher, I don't know the context of it explicitly, but there's that famous Senate hearing where they're talking about like lewd programs on TV or like cable TV and like what is allowed on cable television. Mm-hmm. And there's the famous one of this 100-year-old crotchety Republican senator who says we don't want kids watching things like Buff Coat and Beaver.
and he did not do that on purpose, I bet.
No, it was like an off the cuff almost thing, and he called it Buff Coat and Beaver. And because Beavis and Butthead was controversial back in the day, man. It was imagine. Really, as far as innocuous as it is, like I would let my kid watch Beavis and Butthead these days over listen to some of the music that I play on the radio. You know, it's pretty innocuous, save for a couple episodes that they don't even air on TV anymore. But I'm really excited about Do the Universe, if you couldn't already tell by my 9-minute monologue over here. Dom, I assume your thoughts will be far briefer than mine, but your reaction just to the trailer. And again, somebody not being, super familiar with the characters and stuff, like, what did you take away from the trailer?
Just more so with Beavis and Butthead being back in 2022, the fact that they're back in a way that isn't sad. It's like, oh, they're really trying this again. No, it's like,
that's a good way to put it.
They're back. And even as someone who's never grown up with them, I've watched maybe like a couple episodes and they were all right. I had some laughs, but like it just feels good to know that they're doing good. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, yeah, this show is kind of not that things aren't allowed to fail and things have to be perfect, that you need to have the repertoire of Daniel Day-Lewis where you're highly selective. But it's like, it's just nice to know that, some properties are doing all right. They're not whoring out. They're not, completely running to the ground. They're not to this, to that, but they're just doing good. And in a way that kind of makes Beavis and Butthead, after all these decades, kind of like cultural, like snakes, lizards, phenoms in their own sweet way, where it's like, because like their whole shtick, if I remember correctly, is that they're kind of apathetic to everything, and they're just too cool, but they're also idiots, and you kind of laugh at them too, because it's like they're self-confident in their own ignorance, but they're also not bad guys, so you don't hate them. Am I hitting on kind of those points?
Yeah, you definitely are.
So it's like, if anything, they're just, it's like Beavis and Butthead are too cool for school, and it's like when they get bored, they leave. I don't know if this is like literally what happens in the plot of the show, but like, it feels like when they get bored, they leave, and then they just hang out in their basement or their couch or whatever and just laugh at what's going on for a bit. And then every now and then they decide to come out just by sheer force of apathy or boredom. And it's like, yeah, we're going to make another movie. Now, of course, this isn't like a Chippendales or Roger Rabbit thing where they're literal people who do, who come out of literal hiding, but just the fact that that series has that feel to it. And then they come out with a trailer that's like, damn, this doesn't look sad at all. This actually looks kind of interesting just for the spectacle of it. It's like, yeah, that and a spectacle, and not in a bad way, not in an exploitive way or a negative way, but in a truly like, I'm kind of rooting for you.